Hi, a very good afternoon to people who are joining in. We are writers at work. Today we're going through a second set of English papers, right? Okay. So before we begin, perhaps some brief introduction of what we're going to cover today. Today we're taking a look at the P5 end of year paper. From 2023, so the most recent paper from St. Nicholas Girls' School. Okay. St. Nick's has a pretty steady reputation of setting pretty difficult papers, so today is no exception. We're taking a look at some of the questions being posed today to try to understand how can we solve these questions. Okay. Good afternoon once again to all the viewers who are streaming in. We're writers at work. Today we're going through the P5 end of year paper for English, paper 2 from 2023 from St. Nicholas Girls' School. Okay. So without further ado, let's get started. It was Mr. Tan and not Miss Lee who painted the wall all by blank. Mr. Tan and not Miss Lee, so we're only focusing on Mr. Tan over here for solving for the answer. So you can ignore the portion about Miss Lee over here. It was Mr. Tan who painted the wall all by blank. So you fill in this blank over here, you should fill it in with what is known as a relative pronoun. A relative pronoun over here refers or relates to the subject in this sentence. In this case here, this subject links it to Mr. Tan. Okay. No, Mr. Tan is a man by the salutation Mr. Okay. So Mr. tells us that he is a man, and so our answer over here is by himself. Okay. So starting off with a slightly simpler one to get everyone acquainted with the questions before we move on to some trickier questions. Question 2. I wanted to buy the toy, but it cost too blank money. I could not afford it. We're trying to look at money over here. Money is a collective noun. Okay. And it is uncountable. And at this point, you might have a few questions or disagreement. Yeah, you can certainly count money, right? But in the sense that money as a subject cannot be individually counted out. There's no one money, two monies, three monies, right? If you have money, you have a dollar, you have a cent, those can be individually counted. But money, taken as a general term, a collective noun for your dollars and cents and coins, it is a general term to describe it as a collective, so it's uncountable. So money is treated as uncountable in this instance. In this case here, we're looking at much money. Okay. How do you use few and how do you use many? Few and many are used for countable nouns, right? So if I have a few coins in my pocket or if I have many coins in my wallet, those are countable. Okay. On to question 3. Grandmother blank for a medical checkup annually as she has several health issues. Okay. So let's take a look over here in terms of grandmother. Annually as she has several health issues. These both tell us that it's in the present tense. Pointing to grandmother over here, annually as she has several health issues, it is in the present tense. So among our answers over here, the one that is also in the present tense is goes, option 2. Question 4. All the flights were either postponed or cancelled. Blank the heavy snowstorm. Okay, so because of the heavy snowstorm or during the period of in the period of. So among these 4 prepositions over here, the one that best describes a stretch of time is during. During is used to indicate a stretch of time. From is used also as time, but as the start of a certain timing. Okay, so there's a slight difference over here. When do you use from? When do you use during? Okay. And finally, on to question 5. Question 5 can be pretty tricky, so be careful over here. Let me just mark it up. If Sally blank litter on the floor, she will pick it up. Okay? Some points you should take note of over here. If and will pick it up. Will pick it up is in your future tense. Okay? Yep, I see Ezra already has an answer up on screen, but let's see if that's correct. Okay? Will pick it up is in the future tense. If over here is used as a conditional. So when you start off the sentence by introducing it with a conditional conjunction, you need to follow it up with the simple present tense. Okay. So since we have to only use simple present tense, we can eliminate 3 and 4. Now between C and C's, which one is used over here? As Ezra has correctly pointed out, Sally is just one person singular. So the answer is option 2, C's. Good job, Ezra. Getting the right answer. Okay. Well done. So although this question might seem a bit difficult or a bit complex at first, if you go through it step by step, you can find the answer quite safely. On to question 6, if you look at the top of our screens. Right, thank you, Ezra, for the like. Question 6 at the top. The girl blank the principal praised during the assembly is my sister. Okay. So this is tricky, but it goes all the way back to your basics. In a sentence, you have your basics. Let's start off with an example. The boy threw the ball. So this is a complete sentence in English, right? This is a common sentence we have come across. This sentence is broken up into 3 important parties: boy, the action of throwing, and the ball. In this case here, the boy, the verb over here is your action, throwing, right? Who is the one carrying out the verb? Who is the one throwing? That is your subject. In this case here, the boy. Okay. The boy is your subject. And how about the ball? The ball, the one that receives the action, the one that is being thrown, is known as your object. Okay. So this is the skeleton of every English sentence. Every English sentence has a subject, a verb, and an object. Okay. How it relates to each other: the subject is the one that carries out the verb. The object is the one that is affected by the verb. In this case here, the ball was affected by the act of throwing. Okay. So how can we move that into our sentence over here? The girl blank the principal praised is my sister. Same thing also, what we can do is translate it. Let me get a different ink for clarity. The principal praised my sister. Right? There's if you were to translate it to the same form. So in this case here, we know that our principal is the subject. Subject. Act of praising, to praise and compliment someone, is your verb. And the girl, who ends up being your sister, is the object. Right. Happy birthday, Kriti. Happy birthday. Maybe for birthday luck, you can try to answer this question. Okay. So in this case here, which relative pronoun do we use? In this case here, if you're referring to the object, the correct relative pronoun to be used is option 2, which Ezra has pointed out. Good job, Ezra. And happy birthday, Kriti. Okay. We use whom when you're referring to the object. Whose is when you're referring to the subject. And in this case here, because you're referring to the girl, your sister, you use whom. Okay, well done. Question 7. My older sister studied law blank Nanyang University before she graduated. Okay. So among these 4 options over here, how do you go about solving it? We are studying law, okay, and then blank Nanyang University. Okay. In this case here, the act of studying law is your activity. Okay. And Nanyang University is your place of activity, the setting where the activity was conducted or where it took place. Oops. Okay. So from this blank, what we're trying to answer over here is which preposition is used to indicate the place where the activity was taking place at. And no, you can't put both answers as well. You have to choose one of the two. Okay. Right. Welcome everyone once again for joining in. Fazlina, I think you're joining back in from the morning session. Good afternoon. We are going through the second set of 5 grammar MCQs over here. Okay. So if Nanyang University is your place of activity, the activity being studying law, the preposition you should use over here is at. Okay, as Ezra has correctly identified and chosen. At is used to indicate the place of activity. For example, some of you might be studying at whichever your respective primary schools. So that is how you indicate your place of activity. Good job, Ruxov again. Question 8. Our runners have qualified for the upcoming semi-final round. Blank they. Okay, I know some of you are in from the morning session. Some of you have came in for previous sessions before, so I'll leave this up to you. Which do you think the answer is and why? Which option do you think is correct? Surely you've seen this question before, haven't you? Or this style of question before at least. Okay, I see some answers on screen from yes, I see some people, your answers on screen. Good. How about the others? Do you all agree, or do you think that that's not the right answer? Okay. So in this case here, this is pretty special. This is what we call a tag question. A tag question has 2 parts. The first part over here is your main statement. Okay. So this is your main statement. Your main statement has a subject, our runners, and a verb, have qualified. Okay. How does this relate to the second part over here? In this second part, you need to fill it in with a verb at the start, followed by the same subject. Same subject, they, so no issue over here. How do you fill in the verb? 2 rules you need to take note of. First rule, it needs to be in the same tense. Okay. Same tense from where? From your main statement verb. Okay. So have qualified. Have qualified, you need to keep it in the same tense, have. Okay. Second rule you need to take note of is the opposite action. What do I mean by opposite action? That means if in your main statement your verb here is have qualified, so if it's have in your main statement, the opposite of have is have not, right? Everyone with me so far? Have not is the opposite action of have. Okay, did not do something, have not done something. So we need to look for an answer that contains have not in the right tense. And the answer is option 4, haven't. Okay, so good job for all those that got it right. It is option 4. Okay, but this is still a tricky question, so please be careful when you come across it in your questions. Moving down to question 9. Blank, we change our habits, we will continue to pollute the environment. Okay, so we will continue to pollute the environment. This is your rule. A certainty, right? We will continue to pollute the environment. Not if we change our habits. So this is an exception to the rule. Okay, so this is an exception to rule, and when you're introducing an exception to the rule, you should use unless. Unless is a conditional conjunction used to indicate an exception to a rule. Conditional conjunction for rule exceptions. Unless we change our habits, we will continue to pollute the environment. Okay, good job for those that got it. On to question 10 now. My cousins blank in Australia since they were born. So since they were born tells us that from the time of their birth, okay, something that happened in the past. Something that happened in the past, that is since they were born, and they are still living there, so it's continuous. Okay, continuous and also present tense. Okay. So combining all of our criteria over here, the answer that best suits all of these conditions here would be option 4, present perfect continuous tense. Any questions? Okay, so this wraps up our grammar section over here. But if you want to take a look at grammar, can stay on the live. We will go through a grammar close passage later on. For now, we're switching gears over to vocabs. Vocab can be a section that some students find easier, others find harder. It depends on your overall language level and ability and how widely you read as well. If you read widely, vocab will not be as difficult, but if you do not read widely, vocab can be a pain in the neck because you don't often get exposed to these new words. Okay, so pay attention for vocab as you take a look at some new words that we're going to uncover today. Start off with question 11. Winning first place in the tennis tournament was easy for Peter as all his blank was not as skillful as he was. Okay, what is the difference between all 4 of these options? Normally, spectators are used to indicate the audience. Okay, the people who are watching the competition. Okay. while participants are those that are involved. It's more general, does not really describe the role of these people. However, in this case over here, we know specifically who these people are, right? They are people who are competing against Peter, and hence Peter could win first place easily because they were not good enough. Okay? So what do you call those people who you are competing against in a competition? Not quite your enemy, but your opponent. Okay? Your opponent are the people that you compete against in a tournament. Okay, well done for those that got it right. We're moving on, the next one. Next one relates to phrasal verbs. The girl did not stop crying until her mother blank and bought her the toy. Okay. So these are all examples of phrasal verbs. Phrasal verbs you have gave in, gave out, gave back, and gave away. How do you use that in a sentence? To give in is to relent or to submit. To submit to someone's request, to relent, and to agree with what they were doing. To give out is to break down or to fail. Right? After running your 1.6 in your NAFA test, your legs start to break down, you start to fail. Okay? So your legs gave out. To give back is to return or to repay a favor. Okay? Time to contribute or give back to the community. And finally, to give away is to reveal, to give away a secret. To give away a secret, to give away a hidden information. So among these four over here, which option do you think best fits the idea of the girl's mother agreeing with the girl's request? Okay, for those that are just joining in also, we are on our second vocab question. Which of these four options, these four phrasal verbs, best describe the idea of relenting or allowing someone's request to be heard? Right, the answer over here, some of you have pointed out, is to give in. In this case over here, the girl's mother gave in. She relented and bought the girl her toy because she would not stop crying. So she gave in to her daughter's demands. On to question 3. The town was completely blank by the earthquake. All the buildings collapsed and people were left homeless. Right, so which one best describes the idea of leaving something completely destroyed, in shambles? Okay, the idea is pretty neatly captured. Among these four verbs over here, to uproot is to move a person or a thing from its place of origin. For example, let's say I wasn't born in Singapore, but when I was younger, my parents uprooted the family to move to Singapore. Okay, so an example of being uprooted, to be moved from your place of origin. Number 2, to obstruct is to block or to prevent. Okay, for example, you were running down the corridor, but you are obstructed by your neighbor's belongings. Okay, so to be blocked, to be inhibited. To devastate, devastate is to be completely destroyed, okay, with nothing left. And finally, to overpower. To overpower is to overwhelm. To the point of defeat. For example, if you were in a tennis competition but you were overpowered by your opponent, you would lose the match. Okay? So in this case, we want to talk about the town completely being destroyed by the earthquake till all the buildings collapsed and all the people were left homeless. The closest match over here would be devastated. So devastated is option 3. Okay. So well done for those that got it right. On to 14. His description of the incident was such and blank that everyone found it hard to believe him. So, talking about someone's description of an incident to the point where people find it difficult to believe. Okay, so, finding something unbelievable. What does this tell you about the account of the incident? Is it realistic? Okay, probably not. It is not credible. Okay. So, which word best replaces the blank here? Well, firstly, we know explosion is not it. Oh, thank you, Elsha Rose, for the heart and the number 1 gift. Okay, thank you very much. Would you like to give a shot for this question 14? Which option do you think best fills the blank over here, Elsha Rose? Fazlina is an answer in. How about the rest? Do you all agree with Fazlina? Or do you all think that there are other answers that are possible? Okay. So let's go with Fazlina's answer first. To exaggerate is to make something more dramatic than reality. Okay, more dramatic than reality. In this case here, that seems to match our sentence over here because his description of the event was such a blank, it was so much more dramatic than reality such that everyone found it difficult to believe him. So that's definitely possible. It could be exaggeration. How about the others? What do they mean? Explosion, I won't go through too much. I think it's pretty cut and dry that it's not the answer. Exhilaration. Exhilaration is used to describe elation or extreme happiness. Okay. When you're extremely happy, you are exhilarated. And extravagance. When do you use the word extravagance? It's used to mean when people spend more money than necessary. When someone spends more money than they need to, they are extravagant. Okay. So yes, as correctly pointed out by Fazlina, number 3, exaggeration is the correct answer. Okay. But at the same time, it's important to understand why the other options are incorrect as well. Thank you very much, Elsha Rose. Okay. Thank you for the roses. Would you like to take a shot at question 15 if you're active gifting? The first few months in the army was tough for Jack, but once he got used to the rigorous training, it was blank from then on. Okay, this is certainly not an easy question. These are all idioms. What are idioms? Idioms are common sayings that are not meant to be taken literally, but it depends on how you use it. Okay, we have some answers coming in. How about the other viewers? Do you all agree with Elementia that it is option 2? Okay, let's go through each of the idioms one by one to try to understand and unpack how we can use them in a sentence. Firstly, plain sailing. Have any of you gone onto a ship before? Onto a ship or a cruise or a boat? You know that when the waves get choppy and rough, it can be really tough to handle it. Okay? However, when the waves are calm and peaceful, it is very easy to sail across it. Okay? So that is plain sailing. Plain sailing refers to a situation where it's easy without any problems. No rough or choppy waters, it's just plain sailing. How about bells and whistles? Not related to the bell I have over here. Bells and whistles refer to special features. Special features. Okay. For example, if you buy a new smartphone, for example, it comes with bells and whistles such as a new charging cable, headphones, maybe even a phone casing come with it. Okay, so these are the special features, the bells and whistles that come with a purchase of a new phone. A roller coaster ride. Now think about a roller coaster. If you've gone to a theme park or you've gone to a theme park or amusement park before, you have sat on a roller coaster, you can imagine all the twists and turns, the loops, the plunges and the rises. It is unpredictable, right? Up one moment, down the next. So a roller coaster ride is when something is unpredictable. And finally, water under the bridge. Water under the bridge refers to past problems. Problems in the past that no longer affect you in the present. Okay. For example, you could say, my friend and I had an argument, however, we made up and it is now water under the bridge. It is now a past problem. Okay. So among these four explanations and definitions of our idiom, the one that best fits the idea of Jack being used to the rigorous training, getting used to the rigorous training, is plain sailing. Okay. So good job, Fazlina, for getting the right answer. And for others as well, even though you might not have gotten in your answer in the comments in time, please take the effort also. I think it would be great if you can take note of these definitions. If you can take a screenshot or even copy it down, this will be even better because you can use them in your day-to-day speak. Okay. So if you wish to take a note, these are the 5 questions covered so far for vocab. It'll be pretty useful for your revision and learning. Okay. Alright, good, thank you. Okay. Alright, and now we're moving on to our second vocab section. Thanks, Yummy. Good job, take a note. Good job. Okay, good job, Aisha and Yummy, for taking down the notes. If anyone needs the previous notes as well, please let me know. I can flash it back to the previous pages. Okay. Now for our vocab passage over here, our vocab passage will be about something that it's very close to heart. Talking about cats. Any of you like cats? Any of you have cats at home? Right. How many cats do you all have at home? Do you normally keep just one cat or do they get territorial if you have multiple cats? It's called Bioni. Oh, that's so sweet. Bioni. That's such a sweet name for a cat. Just one, they can get territorial at times, right? We know cats are a bit, let's say, different from other pets. They are not the most warm, nor are they the most forthcoming. But what are some strange habits your cat might exhibit? What are some strange habits your cat shows? Do they have any weird behaviors or patterns that they like to do? Okay. Okay. I have a friend who tries to do his work, but when he tries to type on his computer, his cat walks all over his keyboard and doesn't let him do his work. So cats can be quite attention-seeking sometimes, right? They can try to get your attention, but once you pay attention to them, they just ignore you for the rest of the day. So cats are definitely temperamental creatures. Today we're taking a look at cats and their habit and instinct for sitting in boxes, right? Have you your cat sat in boxes before? Right. Cats love boxes, regardless of the shapes. Scientists do not fully understand why cats have a preference for boxes, but they have a few theories. The most popular one is that cats are naturally drawn to boxes because boxes offer security and shelter. Okay? So definitely some of us find it relatable. Our cats at home tend to find boxes, tend to stay in boxes. Let's go through some of the vocab over here. Preference. A preference is a preferred choice. Okay. A preference is a preferred choice. Among our four, the most popular one is that cats are naturally, so by nature. By nature, they are drawn to boxes because they offer security and they offer shelter. Okay. So let's keep these two questions in mind and shift your eyes down to the end of the page. Okay. Down to question 16 over here. We're looking for preference, a word that replaces preference for a preferred choice. Which of the four is the better replacement over here? Okay, all my cat owners in the chat, what do you all think best replaces the word preference? Okay, Dreamcatcher is in with an answer. Liking. Right? Yep, definitely, right? A liking over here indicates something that is not a necessity, but something that they prefer, something that they choose because they like it, they prefer it. Something that is naturally drawn by nature in 17. Which one best replaces the term naturally, being naturally drawn to boxes? Fish and chips is joined here. Fish and chips can answer about this cat passage. Option 1, usually. Okay, how about other options? Any other viewers in the chat? Which of the four options best replaces the word naturally at the top of our passage? Okay, we see a mix of responses. Maybe let's look at option 1 first, usually. Something usually is something that you do regularly. Something that you do normally, like routine. For example, you usually go to school, right? Because it's like a routine. And we see a good range of responses. In this case here, are cats doing it because of routine, because they don't follow an order? Not quite. There isn't really a routine or an order. As any cat owner can tell you, it's almost impossible to get a cat to do what you want it to. They have their own mind. And sometimes you are the one that is being told what to do, right? How about normally? Normally drawn to boxes. Normally is used to indicate usually when there's an abnormal circumstance. Abnormal, exception. Okay. Cats normally do this, however, the exception is that some do not do this. In this case over here, there isn't really an exception, so you don't really use normally. Regularly goes back to routine over here, usually. There isn't really a routine you can impose on cats, no matter how hard you try. And so what we want to look at is instinctively. Instinct is something biological. Instinct is something that you have by biology. Something that cannot be influenced or shaped by your environment. Okay. And hence that best suits our answer over here of being naturally drawn to boxes. So yes, pretty tricky this question. As you can already see, there are already a range of answers, but the one that best replaces the word natural is instinctive. Something that is by nature. Okay. But good effort to everyone who dropped in the chat, and shout out to Ruxov and Faslina for getting the right answers. Okay. For those that did not get the right answer here, do not be discouraged. There are multiple opportunities for you to carry on with the following questions. Okay. Alright, back to paragraph 2. Oops. Researchers have found a significant difference between the stress levels of cats that had boxes and those that did not. Okay, I did not know that also before doing this paper. That cats are stressed out if you don't give them a box. Okay, so perhaps for cat owners can take note, time to find boxes for your cats. The cats with boxes became accustomed to their surroundings faster and were more interested in interacting with humans. Okay. So looking to replace the word insignificant over here. Let's travel our eyes up to the top of the page. Among all the four options in question 18, which is a substitution or replacement for significant? Noticeable, okay? Some with answers? Right, why is it noticeable and not about the other? Well, in this case here, for the adjective for significant, we are focusing on the significance, something that is impossible to ignore. It is important. A distinguishing difference, okay? So in this case here, that would be noticeable, something that's impossible to ignore. The other options do not quite capture the idea of it being important. It could be new, interesting, unexpected, but that doesn't mean that it is important. Only noticeable brings out this quality. Okay, so good job, Dreamcatcher and 铁歌游. I'm not sure if that is a name for something that I'm not aware of, but good job. Okay. And finally, our final paragraph at the bottom. Another theory why cats love boxes is because boxes keep them warm. Compared to humans, cats prefer warmer temperatures. That could be why cats love to curl up in confined spaces, such as inside a box. It helps them to preserve their body heat. It is no wonder, then, that cats are never far away from boxes. So let's take a look at 19 first. Curl up in a confined space. What is a confined space? A confined space is a tight space with little room to move around. So among our four options on question 19, all the way at the top here, which of these four words over here replace confined? Dreamcatcher coming in quickly, quick fingers. But just because you're quick, do you think you are right? How about the other viewers? Okay, we seem Elementia seems to be backing up Dreamcatcher's answer on 4, cramped. Okay, so cramped is used to refer to a small space. In a small space. And not only is it a small space, but it is uncomfortable. If you are in a cramped space, it is both a small and uncomfortable space. Okay? So not quite like cozy. Cozy also means a small space, but it's more positive. Okay? Has a positive meaning to it. Seems cozy seems nice, right? Relaxing. While cramped seems to be a bit more uncomfortable. Not too ideal. Okay? And finally, question 20, it helps them to, oh wait, sorry. A good job to Dreamcatcher and Elementia. And finally, question 20, to preserve. What does it mean when you say you're preserving something? To preserve is to keep something in its constant state. To keep something in its present state or present condition. And among our options on the top of the page, among our four answers at the top of the page, which best captures the idea of keeping something in its present state or in its present condition? We have some responses in the chat over here. What we can eliminate from consideration first is options 3 and 4. Why? Increase and strengthen both have the idea of increasing or strengthening from its current state. So it's not about keeping it at the same state. Oh. Okay. How about protect and maintain? When do you use protect? When do you use maintain? Protect is used when there is an external force of force or direction of offense against external threat. In this case here, is there an external threat against the body temperature or body heat? Not quite. So the idea we're looking for over here is much better captured by maintain, to keep it at its same level. So well done, Dreamcatcher, for getting the right answer very quickly. For the other viewers also, please keep up as well. Even if your fingers are not typing, I hope you are taking down the notes at the same time. Alright? Are there any questions for now? Alright, so with that, we have come to the end of our vocab section, and we're done with the MCQ as well. Okay, yeah. Good job, Dreamcatcher. You can see that perhaps when life gets stressful at times, it's always good to revisit back to these creature comforts. Seeing these familiar pages and questions help us to de-stress and think of perhaps less stressful times back in school. Okay, so right, it's always important to keep up to date with our language abilities, not just in school for your exams, but even in your working lives, as some of our viewers can attest to. Occasionally, you come across people or co-workers who might not have a correct grasp of the English language and can be difficult for communication. Okay, so it's always important to keep yourself up to date with your language fundamentals. Okay. And with that, we've come to the end of our MCQ questions. We'll be moving on to our closed passage and our editing passages. Along the way, if you have seen what we've covered so far and you find these are useful for your preparation and for your learning, don't forget to like, follow, and share the live so that we can learn more together with our friends. If you'd like to know more about what we do here at Writers at Work, if you'd like to take a look at some of snippets and shorts we've had of previous live sessions, feel free to click on the link in our bio. It takes you to our TikTok page containing shorts and also special segments from our previous live sessions. And if you can't use TikTok, or if you're not comfortable with navigating TikTok, no worries. Feel free to check out our other social media accounts. We're also on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and Xiaohongshu. We've just concluded the June holiday series of programs, but we have other up and coming programs up in store for interested participants. So visit our website, writersatwork.com.sg, to learn more about us and the programs that we offer. And finally, after looking at what we covered today and you're interested in doing or browsing through some of our ebooks or resources in your own time, don't worry, you don't have to go through them during the live. If you're curious about our ebooks and resources from Writers at Work, feel free to join the link in our bio to browse through some of our previews and samples. And if you find that it's the right fit for you, you can purchase it on our e-store as well. Okay, so it's convenient. All from the convenience of your home, you can have access to all of these learning materials together. Okay. All right, so with that, let's proceed with our grammar close. Okay. Our grammar close today is a folk tale. What is a folk tale? Okay. A folk tale is a story passed down by word of mouth from one generation to the next. Today, we are pretty fortunate. We have books to tell our stories. We can record our stories on camera, in film, on television, Or you can even illustrate them, print it out in books, or to communicate them through other means. However, in the past, there wasn't technology, there wasn't even paper printing. Okay, so how do people pass down their stories from one generation to the next? Well, that is in the form of folk tales, where they tell each other stories from their history in order to pass down certain values, beliefs, or morals that are unique to their culture or way of life. Okay. So today we're taking a look at a folk tale for our grammar close. Long ago, in a faraway city, there were two beggars who wandered the streets each day collecting coins. When they passed blank the palace, the queen often gave each of them a loaf of bread. On to our first blank over here. When they passed blank the palace. What is the correct preposition over here for passing blank? Okay. Right, thank you. We're looking at passing by. Okay. Why do we pass by when you're passing from across the front of? Passing along isn't really used in this context. Along refers to along a stretch of road, for example. I walked along or I drove along the road, along a long stretch. In this case here, they were not walking along the long stretch, rather they're just passing by the palace in the front of it. The queen often gave each of them a loaf of bread. Blank fail, the beggars would give the same responses. So without fail, good job, Alawentia. Without fail, the beggars would give the same response. So without over here is used as an adverb, talking about how never fail or without fail, they would always give the same response to the queen who gave them food. Okay, good job, Elementia and Rooksoft as well. Oh, queen, you are so kind and generous, said the young beggar. Okay. So kind and generous both are character traits, qualities. Okay. So when you're listing out a list of traits, the conjunction you should use is option D. And okay, well done again, the same two respondents for getting the right answer. Oh, and Dreamcatcher as well. Good job. Okay, kind and generous. Okay, so use and as a conjunction over here to combine a list of traits. Said the young beggar. Praise be to God, who blank been generous to the queen, said the old beggar. So who is the one being generous to the queen? Our subject over here is praise be to God. Okay, so which God is this? Won't go. This depends on the beggars. If the beggars believed in a religious figure or deity over here, in this case, they refer to it generally as, or translated from its original language to God in general. So that God over here is described as the subject who blank been generous to the queen. H, we see H over here, had. Okay, but had is in the past tense, right? And yes, this story took place in the past. There were past tense. They passed past tense. Said also in the past tense, right? True, this story is in the past tense. However, take note, this is important over here. When you look at dialogue is in the present tense. Okay, dialogue is in the present tense. So what is the present tense of had? Okay, right? So the present tense of had is has been generous. In this case here, I'm referring to the God as someone who continues to exist, who is there with them in the present. Okay, so who has been generous to the queen. Okay. So take note, this is something that you need to be careful of, even though the rest of the story might be in past tense. When characters are speaking, they are speaking in the present, in the now of the story. Right? They are speaking in the present. They don't know that this story took place in the past, because to them they are living out the story. So it takes place in the present tense. Day after day, the words of the old beggar annoyed the queen. One night, She devised a plan that blank teach the old beggar to give thanks to her instead. Now the queen is getting jealous, right? The beggars are attributing the charity and her generosity to some god out there instead of her. So the queen is feeling jealous. How can you praise someone else instead of me who's giving you the bread? So she wants to teach the old beggar a lesson. What verb do you use over here? Since that blank teach the old beggar, so in this case, you're looking at a hypothetical that would be Q, that would teach the old beggar to give thanks to her instead. She instructed the baker blank hide jewels in a loaf of bread. Okay? So to instruct, you follow that up with the preposition instructed the baker to hide jewels in a loaf of bread. Okay. The next day, she gave a plain loaf to the old beggar and carefully handed the one blank the jewels to the young beggar. Okay. So the one containing the jewels, the one that contains the jewels, which word do you use to replace it? It is the one with the jewels, okay, hidden within. Okay. So that is option N, with the jewels to the young beggar. Smiling, the queen walked away. This loaf is too heavy. It must be poorly baked, thought the young beggar, blank noticing the weight of his bread. So, blank noticing the weight and remarking on it that it's heavy, which happened first, noticing the weight or his remark that comes? Okay, right. So, the young beggar noticed the weight first and then remarks on it that is too heavy. Okay, so this one comes before this action. He noticed it first and then he made his comment. So to indicate the order of events over here, one coming after the other, we use option B, after. Okay, well done, Eleventia. After noticing the weight of his bread, he turned to the old beggar and asked if he would exchange loaves. Eager to blank helpful, the old beggar agreed. Okay. So to embody a characteristic, in this case, say helpful, the verb you should use is to, right, exactly, to be helpful. Okay, so good job. Oh, a lot of respondents this time around. Eloventia, Matrix, Ruxoff. Well done for getting the right answers. Okay, for one for each of you. Okay. Eager to be helpful, the old beggar agreed. When the queen learnt blank the exchange, she was displeased. Her plan had failed miserably. So to learn, yep, to learn about. Okay. Good job again, once again, Eleventia Matrix, for getting the right answer. To learn about the exchange, she was displeased. Her plan had failed, or in fact backfired. Right, so this is an old folk tale over here, a story being passed down from word of mouth from one generation to the next. For our grammar close. Any questions about the blanks we've covered? Okay, good. If you found this practice helpful, could you give I would deeply appreciate it if you could leave a thumbs up in the comments or the views so that I know that this chat is able to keep up with what I'm going through so far. And also at any point in time, if you're having difficulty keeping up or if you don't understand why a certain answer is the way, please feel free to drop a comment in the chat so that we can go through it together as a live stream. Okay. Right, thank you Matrix for the feedback. Thank you very much for the likes as well. Okay, thank you very much, Ruxov. It gives me a better understanding also of how to go about conducting this practice paper, also what best addresses the needs of the live stream. Alright, on to our final section for today. Today we're taking a look at editing. So let me move this down to the screen over here. Right, okay. So your editing normally contains 10 to 12 questions. The word editing, to edit is to fix, to repair. So what are you fixing over here? You're fixing either spelling mistakes or grammar mistakes. Okay? Grammar mistakes in the form of wrong tense or wrong word form. Take note over here, it's either spelling or grammar mistake. You will not get a question that tests you on both spelling and grammar. Okay? So if you give you a word, you need to correct the spelling or correct the grammar. You don't have to do both. Let's take a look at this passage over here. This passage talks about something that is quite relevant, although we might not talk about it often in Singapore. Okay? It talks about the homeless. Okay? We are quite fortunate that in Singapore, we have a high home ownership rate among our populations, but still the homelessness rate in Singapore does exist. Okay? So we do need to look at how we treat these members of our society who are part of our community. Is it possible when you edit the vocab? No. For editing passage, it is very clear. MOE has set the guideline very clear here, just to change the grammar or to change the spelling. You'll not be asked to replace the vocab with another vocab word. Okay, so MOE is very clear about this point. They have never changed it, or they have never asked students to replace the vocab for over for the whole time the editing passage has been set at the primary school level. Okay, so don't worry about vocab. Vocab will never be asked for editing. Okay, so this passage will talk about the homeless in Singapore and how they interact and are treated by members of society. While most people are snug in beds in their homes by midnight, the homeless are found sleeping at some void deck or staircase landing in Singapore. Many of these people lie on pieces of cardboard. Okay, so for example, over here it's a spelling mistake. It's pieces, P-I-E-C-E-S. Many of these homeless lie on pieces of cardboard. Okay. A nationwide studying on the homeless in Singapore indicated that most of them are poor and have weak social support. Okay. So studying over here is not the right word. Studying is the verb, right? The continuous tense of it. However, we need to change it to a noun. So the noun of it is study. Okay. Yes, Matrix, good job. Got it right. It is the change in word form. So word form comes under a grammar change. A study on the homeless in Singapore indicated that they have poor social support. Okay. Take note, social is spelled with a C in the middle. Just like in your schools, you have social studies, right? Social studies and national education, social is spelled with a C. Have weak social support. The plight of these homeless, plight is spelled with a single I. Well done, Aluensha, getting 2 correct spellings in a row. The plight of these homeless people deeply saddened Mr. Yo. Okay. So saddened, I will do the first 2 letters. How about the middle? How many D's are there? Right, so I see answers pouring in. There are 2 D's in the middle of saddened. Alright, so be careful with your spelling. In the middle of saddened, there are 2 D's. Saddened Mr. Yo. In July 2014, he founds the organization called Homeless Hearts. So yes, this is a tense mistake. It should be founded. Okay. What does it mean to found? To found is to start an organization. The past tense of that is founded. Why do you use past tense? Because we know that this organization was founded in the past. Okay. So this is a tense mistake. Okay, good job, Ruxov and Eloventia once again. He founded the organization called Homeless Hearts. The mission of the organization is to help the homeless people be part of the community again. Okay. How do you spell community? It can be quite tricky, so keep an eye out for it. Look up community, COMM, community. Okay, so there's a spelling mistake. Good job for those that spelled it right. Every fortnight, a team of dedicated volunteers, VOLUN, TEERS. Okay, so take note at the back over here, tears is spelled with a double E. So be mindful of the spelling for volunteers. It's often commonly spelled wrong. Some people spell it with just a single E. Some accidentally spell it with an I. So just be mindful, it should be spelled TEERS. A team of dedicated volunteers from Homeless Hearts conduct night walks in various parts of Singapore. So what is wrong with conduct? Every fortnight is present tense, right? Every fortnight is still happening. Conducts, as Elemental has pointed out. Why? Why do we use conduct? Why is it singular? We have volunteers, right? Plural. We know volunteers is multiple people. Okay, so this is a trick you need to be wary of. In this case here, yes, volunteers are multiple. However, you're looking at the collective noun. As pointed out by Fazlina, it is one team. A team, singular. Okay. So this is singular. And hence you need to use the singular verb conducts. A team of dedicated volunteers from Homeless Hearts conducts night walks in various parts of Singapore. They begin by give food and drinks to the homeless. They begin by giving. Okay. By distributing, by giving food and drinks to those homeless, to the homeless whom are sleeping in the street. Then they sit and talk to them as friends. Okay. So you should replace whom over here with who. Okay. Why do you use who over here? Let's go back to our grammar section. Can everyone take a look at the bottom over here? Question 6. We have a subject, a verb, and an object. The object whom is when the object is the one that is affected or influenced by your verb. For example, throwing, praising, giving, or sleeping in the street. However, subject refers to one carrying out the actions of sleeping. In this case, the homeless are the ones who are sleeping, so they are the subject. They are the one carrying out the action or the verb of sleeping. So you use who. Who are sleeping in the street. Then they sit and talk to them as friends. The homeless are not just a problem to be solved, they are people to be loved. To be loved, right? Okay. Definitely. They are people to be loved. Many of them are actually in need of a friend, said Mr. Yeo. Okay. So this is something that we need to be cognizant of as you go about living in Singapore. Not everyone gets to live the same gets to enjoy the same quality or standard of living. Some others, due to different circumstances in life as well, might end up being homeless, and we need to treat them just with an equal amount of respect and dignity. No one wants to be homeless by choice. So unfortunately, for those who are no choice but to sleep in the street, they need to have social support as well as the financial support to allow them to get back on their feet. Okay. Any questions? Okay. If there are no questions, perhaps for the interest of those who are joining in late, I could go through some of the earlier grammar questions. Right? I see some confused faces in the chat. about our earlier section at the front. So let me go through the earlier sections for the benefit of those that were late in joining the live stream. Okay, so just as a reminder to everyone who is looking through today's paper, we just covered the Primary 5 End of Year paper 2023 from St. Nicholas Girls School Primary section. Okay, so if you wish to find a copy of this online as well, you can go online to find it at this website. Okay. Or you can use alternative websites as well to find a soft copy of this worksheet so that you can do it at your own time. Question 1. It was Mr. Tan and not Miss Lee who painted a wall by blank. In this case here, we can ignore Miss Lee because Mr. Tan is the only subject of interest. So we have to use the correct relative pronoun to refer to Mr. Tan. And that pronoun is himself. Okay. Mr. Tan is the pronoun you should use for himself is the pronoun you should use for Mr. Tan. Question 2. I wanted to buy the toy but it cost 2 blank money. I could not afford it. In this case here, money is being treated as a collective noun. Okay. And because it's treated as a collective noun, it is considered as uncountable. In this case, you might be confused. Why is money uncountable? You can count money, right? Well, true, but when I say countable, I mean that you can enumerate them. Like 1 money, 2 monies, 3 monies. Does that make sense? Not quite, right? You can count your individual dollars and cents. Your coins, yes, you can certainly count them. But you can't really count money as a whole. Money is a general term describing the amount of cash that you have. So it's uncountable, and thus the correct answer is much. Few and many are used only for countable nouns. For example, I have a few dollars or I have many dollars and coins in my wallet. Number 3, grandmother blank for medical checkup annually as she has several health issues. So annually and has both point to this word being in the present tense. So the correct answer is goes, option 2. Question 4. All the flights were either postponed or cancelled blank the heavy snowstorm. So looking at flights that were postponed or cancelled in the period of the heavy snowstorm when it was still going on. So among these 4 options over here, we chose during because during is used to indicate during a period of time. From can also be used for time to indicate the start of a time, but not the duration or the period of it. So just the start of a time. Okay. So in this case here, while from and during are both used for time-related events, if you want to talk about the duration or the period of an event, you have to use during. And question 5 is a tricky one. If Sally blank litter on the floor, she will pick it up. She will pick it up is a future tense verb. So this tells us that it's preceded by a conditional clause. The conditional clause being introduced with if. Okay? If is a conjunction being used to introduce a condition. If something, then something will happen. So if Sally blank litter on the floor, it needs to be in the simple present tense. And among our options over here, the only one that is in the simple present tense is option 2, sees. Okay, why sees and not see? Sees because it's singular. Sally is just one person. Okay, so just a singular person, you have to use sees. Any questions on grammar for questions 1 to 5? Okay, good. Moving on to 6 to 10. If you need to take a screenshot or copy down these notes, please feel free to do so, alright? We have our live streams open to the public for access, so please make the most of it also if you're able to take down these notes. Okay. On to questions 6 to 10. The girl blank the principal praised during the assembly is my sister. Okay, so this is a tricky question. Let's start with the purple ones on the right over here. Okay? An example of a normal English sentence, the boy threw the ball. Okay? We have the verb in the middle, threw. The one who carries out the action is the subject, the boy throw. What did the boy throw? He threw the ball. So this is your object. The object is the one that's affected by the verb. In this case here, the ball was affected by the throwing. Okay, so keeping this structure in mind, let's try to take this sentence and translate it also. The principal praised my sister, right? Subject, verb, object. In this case here, by following this line, we can label the principal over here as the subject, the one carrying out the praising. Praise over here is the action, and the one who received the praises, the one who was praised, is your object, the girl. And in this case here, to describe the object, you use the relative pronoun of whom. Alright. Not to confuse. Question 7. My elder sister studied law blank Nanyang University before she graduated. We're looking at an activity and the place where the activity was taking place at. Okay, so the preposition you should use over here should be at. For example, I study at my respective school, or I'm teaching at Writers at Work. Okay, so to at to indicate the place where the activity is being carried out. Question 8. Question 8 is tricky, so let's take a look. Our runners have qualified for the upcoming semi-final round, blank they. Okay. So we start off with a main statement at the front. We have our subject. Over here, our subject from earlier, the runners. What action did they do? They have qualified. So if we want to replace the verb in the second end of the question over here, they, the subject is correct, talking about the runners, they. The verb over here must firstly be in the same tense. So have qualified, same tense. Secondly, it must also be the opposing action. What do I mean by opposing action? If my action over here, oops, I'll move these pieces around. If my action over here is have, the opposite action of it will be have not. Okay, so have not will be our opposing action, leading us to our answer, option 4. Haven't they? Okay, right, so good recovery there, Eleventia. Our answer is option 4. They have qualified, haven't they? Question 9. Blank, we change our habits, we will continue to pollute the environment. We will continue to pollute the environment, that is the rule. However, you're introducing an exception to the rule. If this exception takes place, this rule will not happen. Okay? So in this case here, you should use unless. Unless is a conjunction being used to introduce a condition to a rule exception. Okay? So unless is being used in this example over here to show how this rule of continuing to pollute the environment will take place unless we change our habits. Okay. And finally, for our grammar question, question 10. Our cousins blank in Australia since they were born. So in this case here, we are looking at since they were born, it happened in the past, and they are continuing to live in Australia in the present, right? They were born there and they still continue to live there. So the correct answer should be in the past, in the present perfect tense, they have been living in Australia because they are still living there now. Any questions on grammar? If there are no questions, I would like to draw everyone's attention just to question 8. Question 8 is something that is quite common across all the practice papers we've covered so far in our P5 teaching series. Every grammar section has at least one question with question tag. Okay, so pay attention, understand how you can derive your answer from questions like this in the future so that you don't have to make the same mistake in the future. Okay. Alright. Finally, moving on to our vocab MCQ to wrap up today's session. Winning first place in a tennis tournament was easy for Peter as all his blank were not as skillful as he was. So we're talking about people who are competing against Peter in a competition. What do you call them? The people who are competing against for the same prize or the same goal. Okay. The correct name for these people are called your opponents, people that you compete against. The spectators are the general audience who is watching the tournament, spectating, while participants is more general. However, in the sentence over here, we know it's not just a general participant, but specifically talking about the people that were competing against Peter. So opponents is the more direct answer. Question 12. The girl did not stop crying until her mother blank and bought her the toy. Among the 4 phrasal verbs that we have, what is a phrasal verb? A phrasal verb is a short phrase that is meant to be read together as a single verb. Among our 4 options over here, to give in is to relent or submit to a request. To give out is to break down or fail, right? After I finished running my 1.6 km in my Nan Hua fitness test, my legs gave out. They started breaking down and failing because I was so tired. To give back is to return. For example, I give back to community, to contribute back to community. And finally, to give away is to reveal, to give away a secret, to let the cat out of the bag. Okay? So in this case, among the 4 phrasal verbs, the one that best captures the idea of the mother giving in to her daughter's crying and buying her the toy. Okay, so to relent, to give in to the crying. Okay, good job, Nomad. Question 18. The town was completely blanked by the earthquake. All the buildings collapsed and people were left homeless. From our 4 descriptions over here, the first adjective, uprooted, to uproot is to move something from its place of origin. For example, if let's say you were born outside of Singapore, but when you're younger, your family uprooted to move and migrate to Singapore. So that means to move from your place of origin, your place of birth. To obstruct is to block or to prevent. That's why you often see that for fire escapes and corridors, you normally have to leave common corridors unobstructed. Remove any obstructions in place such that people can run out in case of an emergency. So no blockages, no preventions, no obstructions. Devastated. To be devastated is to be completely destroyed with nothing left. So that seems to fit our blank over here, talking about a town being completely destroyed to the point where all the buildings were collapsed, all the people were left homeless, there's nothing left for the town. And finally, overpower. To overpower is to overwhelm or defeat someone in a fight. Okay, so good job, Elementia. Option 3 is your correct answer. Overpower over here, it would not be used correctly because in this case here, the town is not fighting against the earthquake. There wasn't a fight, it just happened to the town. Okay, so overpower isn't quite the correct term to use here. Question 14. His description of the incident was such a blank that people found it hard to believe him. So this tells us that whatever he described the incident as, it was unrealistic. Okay. Among our 4 descriptions over here, explosion, you can take it out from consideration. It has nothing to do with what's happening in the sentence. How about the remaining 3 options? When someone is exhilarated, when they are filled with exhilaration, that means they are elated, they are extremely happy. Okay? For example, you're exhilarated for the school holidays, or you're exhilarated to go back to school for term 3. Okay? So that means to be extremely happy or elated. To exaggerate is to dramatize more than reality. Okay? And extravagance, that means to spend more money than is necessary. In this case here, the correct answer is exaggerated because this person's description was so exaggerated, was so much more dramatic such that people found it to be unrealistic. Who will be exhilarated to go back to school? Everyone will be exhilarated to go back to school. I mean, your students, classmates, all your classmates will be exhilarated to go back to school, meet up with your favorite friends, classmates, CCA friends, your teachers, right? It'll be great to go back to school on term 3. Okay, and finally, extravagance. Extravagance refers to spending more money than necessary. Who makes Okay, maybe some of us are more excited than others to go back to school. Okay. Right, and finally for question 15, the first few months in the army was tough for Jack, but once he got used to the rigorous training, it was blank from then on. So let's try to capture the idea in the sentence over here. The first few months were tough, but once he got used, it was blank. So what does this blank should it be filled with? Is it still tough? No, right? In this case here, after going through the training and getting used to it, he found it easy. Okay? So but over here is used to indicate a contrast from tough to easy. From tough to easy. Okay. So among our idioms from our options, which one captures the idea of easy? That is Mr. Azhar. Yes, Mr. Azhar is a very fun and encouraging teacher. Okay. Among our four options, plain sailing. Plain sailing refers to easy, something that's easy without any problems. It comes from sailing, right? Any of you have taken a boat or ship before, you know that if the waters are rough and choppy, it is not plain sailing. However, if the sea is peaceful and calm, it is very easy to sail across it. So plain sailing refers to a task that is easy without any problems. Bells and whistles. Bells and whistles are special features that come with accompany something. For example, if you're to buy an iPhone, if you go buy an iPhone, you get bells and whistles such as a charger, you get headphones, maybe a pair of AirPods that come together with it, or even a free phone case that comes together with the iPhone. Okay, so that is a special feature, the bells and whistles that come with a purchase. A roller coaster ride. If any of you have gone to an amusement park or a theme park before, you have taken a roller coaster, you know it goes up and down, left and right, all the twists and loops, going with sharp rises and falls. Okay, so a roller coaster ride is an unpredictable journey. Okay. And finally, water under the bridge. Water under the bridge refers to past problems that have been solved. That have been solved. How do you use water under a bridge in a sentence? You could say, my friend and I had a fight. However, we made up after the fight and now it is water under the bridge. Okay? So a past problem that is now solved in the present. Okay, any questions? Okay, I think with that, we've come to the end of our vocab section as well as the end of our paper. Okay. For the remaining sections, I think those who are already in the live stream will have gone through it earlier. So in the meantime, before we go, perhaps we'll just give a brief update of what we're going through. Right after this, I think we have a scheduled session right after this afternoon session. It will be conducted by another teacher, be conducted by a different teacher. So look out for it. Okay, we're looking at reading sections later on. So keep an eye out, and once you're ready, you can look out for it. Otherwise, that is it for today's paper. If you enjoy what we've covered during the live stream, don't forget to like, follow, and share the live so that we can learn more together with our friends. If you want to know more about Writers at Work, click the link in our bio. You can find out more information about our website as well as our TikTok pages. But if you don't like to use TikTok, no worries. Feel free to check our other social media accounts. We are also on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Xiaohongshu. To find out more about our holiday programs or special programs that we have, you can visit our website writersatwork.com.sg to learn more. Closer to our end of year period in term 4, you'll be having more special programs, especially for the different paper sections on oral, listening, compo writing, as well as paper 2 booklet answering. So look out for that during the September holidays and for the year end. And finally, if you're curious about trying out all of our practices over here, but you don't want to do it under the pacing of the live stream, you want to do it at your own pace, no worries. You can check out our link in our bio to take a look and access some of our Writers at Work ebooks and e-resources. Okay, so some of these ebooks and resources have samples and previews for you to take a look at it to find if they are up to your quality and level. If you think they are up to your standard, you'd like to try more of it, you can feel free to purchase it all from the e-store. So it is done from the convenience of your own home, so you don't have to drop by, you don't have to go anywhere to buy it. You can just buy it from and order it online. Okay, we have collected all the important materials and resources for you on our e-store. So if you're interested, you can go visit the homepage over there to take a look at what products we have on display over there. If I'm not wrong, there's currently a promotion going on. You buy a bundle. If you buy a bundle, you get a reduced price as compared to buying each of the papers individually. So if you buy a set of papers, of 5 papers or 10 papers at once, it is cheaper than buying all 5 of them individually. Okay, so maybe this is something that is interesting to you, something you can work on early. Otherwise, that is it for today's session. Thank you everyone for joining in so actively in our chat. I'm glad to see everyone is learning well and keeping up to date with what we have gone through today's lesson. If you have any questions or follow-up, please don't hesitate to contact us in our bio. Otherwise, I'm Teacher Marcus, this is Writers at Work, and thank you very much for joining us on this Wednesday afternoon to go through this English paper. Thank you.